We're not paying for this circus. Marcus Williams dropped a sheet of paper beside his daughter's dinner plate so hard that Tyra's glass rattled. She looked down. BLMY house, cancellation confirmation. For several seconds, Tyra didn't move. Her wedding was 6 weeks away. Her dress was fitted. The invitations were sent. The photographer was booked. And Bellamy House, the restored historic venue where she was supposed to marry Jordan Ellis, had apparently just been canceled by her own father. "You did this?" Tyra asked. Marcus leaned back while Denise, Tyra's mother, watched from across the table. "I warned you," he said. "If you insist on marrying that school counselor and embarrassing this family, you can pay for your own circus." Two relatives at the table suddenly became very interested in their plates. Denise folded her arms. "Maybe now you'll find someone who can actually afford you." Marcus expected Tyra to panic. Instead, she picked up the cancellation notice. Her eyes stopped on 4 words. Authorized financial representative, Marcus Williams. Then she asked something that wiped the satisfaction from her father's face. "You told Bellamy House you had authority to cancel the entire contract." Marcus frowned. "My money gave me authority." Tyra slowly folded the paper. "Understood." And that was the moment Marcus made his second mistake. He assumed she had surrendered. For months, Marcus had been trying to reshape Tyra's wedding into something that suited him. He wanted business associates added to the guest list. He wanted a more expensive reception package. And worst of all, he kept suggesting that 29-year-old Tyra reconsider Jordan because a public school counselor wasn't successful enough for his daughter. There was even someone Marcus preferred, Grant Mercer, the wealthy son of one of his associates. Tyra had refused every attempt to interfere. Now Marcus had finally used the one weapon he believed she couldn't fight: money. "You'll thank us eventually," Denise said. "Once you realize what another venue costs, you'll come to your senses." Tyra stood. She didn't defend Jordan. She didn't beg Marcus to reverse the cancellation. She simply slipped the document into her purse and walked out. Minutes later, sitting inside her car, she called Jordan. "Your dad did what?" he asked when she told him. "Don't call Bellamy House." "Tyra, our wedding was canceled." "I know." "Then why wouldn't I call them?" Tyra looked through her windshield toward her parents' dining room window. There was a pause. Jordan's voice softened. "Tyra, are we still getting married?" "Yes." "But Bellamy House." "Jordan, trust me, don't contact them yet." She ended the call and pulled the cancellation notice from her purse again. Marcus thought the important part was that he'd canceled the wedding. Tyra was focused on something else entirely. How had a man whose name wasn't supposed to control the contract managed to cancel it at all? Jordan arrived at Tyra's apartment that evening expecting to find her devastated. Instead, she was sitting at the kitchen counter with her laptop open and a folder of wedding documents spread beside it. "Tell me what I'm missing," he said. "Because your father just canceled our wedding and you're acting like you found a mistake on a grocery receipt." Tyra turned the laptop toward him. "My father didn't pay for our wedding." Jordan stared at her. "I know that. Our families don't." That was the problem. When Marcus offered them $18,000 months earlier, he had presented it as a generous wedding gift. He insisted his credit card be kept on file to cover several optional reception upgrades. But Tyra and Jordan had paid the venue deposit themselves. They had covered the catering installments. They had hired the photographer. Most of the wedding was being financed from their own savings. Marcus's $18,000 was only a contribution. Yet every time he paid for something, another demand followed. First, he wanted 12 business associates added to the guest list. Then he wanted a more expensive reception package. Then his criticism shifted to Jordan. "A school counselor is admirable," Marcus had told Tyra once, "but admirable doesn't pay for the life you expect." Jordan shook his head. And then Grant Mercer. Tyra nodded. Her father had suggested postponing the wedding and reconnecting with Grant, the wealthy son of one of his associates. Tyra had refused. Days later, Marcus canceled Bellamy House. "I'm calling him," Jordan said, reaching for his phone. Tyra caught his wrist. "No." "Tyra, that's exactly what he wants. You defending yourself while he gets to decide whether you're worthy of marrying me." Jordan slowly lowered the phone. "So what are we doing?" Tyra opened the original Bellamy House agreement. They went through it line by line. Then she found what she was looking for. Here, the contracting clients were clearly listed. Tyra Williams, Jordan Ellis. Marcus Williams appeared only on a separate payment authorization, covering his $18,000 contribution and specific upgrades. He had no cancellation authority. Jordan leaned closer. Then how did he cancel it? Tyra opened the cancellation email. This time, she noticed the employee name at the bottom, a newly hired weekend coordinator. It appeared the coordinator had accepted Marcus's claim that he controlled the wedding financially, without verifying the original signatures. Tyra immediately forwarded the contract, payment authorization, and cancellation confirmation to Bellamy House's general manager. She typed one sentence: "Please review who authorized this cancellation." The response came minutes later. "Tyra, I've received everything. Please take no further action until morning." Jordan read it twice. "What does that mean?" Tyra closed the laptop. "I think we're about to find out." The next morning, at exactly 8:07, Bellamy House made its first phone call about the canceled wedding. But Tyra's phone never rang. Marcus's did. Marcus answered the call at 8:07 the next morning with Denise sitting beside him. Several relatives were still at the house, and the story of Tyra's supposedly ruined wedding had already become breakfast conversation. "This is Marcus Williams." "Mr. Williams, this is the general manager of Bellamy House. I'm calling regarding the cancellation request you submitted for Tyra Williams and Jordan Ellis." Marcus immediately put the call on speaker. "Yes," he said confidently. "I assume you're calling about my refund." There was a pause. "I'm actually calling about your authority to submit that cancellation." The room went quiet. Marcus straightened. "I'm paying for the wedding." "Our records don't show that, sir." His expression changed. "I contributed $18,000. Your staff has my card." "Yes. Your payment authorization covers specific reception expenses. It does not identify you as a contracting client." Marcus glanced at Denise. "I was told the wedding was canceled. A weekend coordinator processed your request based on information you provided. That request is now under review because you represented yourself as an authorized financial representative. I want my money returned." Another pause. Then the manager said the sentence that changed the entire conversation. "Mr. Williams, why did the owner cancel your daughter's refund?" Marcus froze. Denise turned sharply toward the phone. "What owner?" Marcus demanded. "I'm not authorized to discuss Ms. Williams's private business arrangements with you. What I can tell you is that your refund request has been suspended while we review the unauthorized cancellation." Marcus ended the call minutes later with none of the confidence he'd started with. "What did she do?" Denise whispered. Marcus was already calling Tyra. She answered on the fourth ring. "What did you tell Bellamy House?" he demanded. "Good morning to you too." "Don't play games with me. They're claiming I wasn't authorized to cancel." "You were. I paid $18,000. And you signed an agreement explaining exactly what that money covered." Marcus paced toward the window. "You manipulated them into withholding my refund." "No, I read the contract." His jaw tightened. "You think you're clever. You taught me never to sign anything without reading it." One of the relatives at the table looked at Marcus. Wait, I thought you paid for the whole wedding. Marcus ignored him. Restore my access, he ordered Tyra. Today. No. Denise snatched the phone. You have 24 hours before I tell everyone you stole $18,000 from your own parents. Tyra's voice remained steady. Before you do that, Mom, read the contribution agreement. Denise stopped. Another relative asked, contribution. The version of the story Marcus had been telling was beginning to collapse in front of the same people who had watched him humiliate Tyra. He hadn't financed the wedding. He had contributed to it. And now everyone in the room had another question. Who was the owner Bellamy House had mentioned? Marcus grabbed his keys. Where are you going? Denise asked. To Bellamy House. His phone was still connected. Tyra heard him. Dad. Marcus stopped. Before you tell everyone what I can't afford, Tyra said, you might want to find out whose building you just tried to cancel my wedding in. Marcus walked into Bellamy House less than an hour later, carrying the cancellation confirmation. I want the general manager. The receptionist looked at the paper in his hand, then made a quiet phone call. Minutes later, the manager stepped into the lobby. Mr. Williams. I want an explanation, Marcus said. My refund is frozen. My daughter somehow knows what you're doing before I do, and somebody on the phone called her an owner. I cannot discuss Ms. Williams's business interests without her permission. Marcus stared at her. So there is something to discuss. The manager didn't answer that. Instead, she addressed the cancellation. Your request should never have been processed without verification. Once we reviewed the original contract, the cancellation was voided. Marcus blinked. Voided. Tyra Williams and Jordan Ellis remain booked here for their original wedding date. For the first time, Marcus understood that his biggest move had accomplished nothing. The wedding was still happening, and Tyra had already made sure his money could no longer threaten it. That morning, she instructed Bellamy House to separate Marcus's $18,000 contribution from the wedding account, while accounting determined which charges were refundable. Then she and Jordan replaced every optional upgrade Marcus had funded with expenses they could cover themselves. Marcus was removed as an authorized payment contact. Denise was removed as well. Whatever happened next, neither parent could touch the wedding financially. Marcus turned away from the manager and noticed a series of framed photographs along the lobby wall. They documented Bellamy House's restoration. Workers repairing the ballroom. The reopening ceremony. Investors standing beneath the restored entrance. Marcus stopped at one photograph. Tyra was in it. She stood beside the general manager and two other people Marcus didn't recognize. Beneath the photograph was a plaque identifying the restoration partnership associated with Tyra's event consulting company. Marcus stepped closer. Suddenly, little details he had dismissed began connecting. Tyra had known immediately that he lacked cancellation authority. The general manager had personally responded to her complaint, and Bellamy House had reviewed the cancellation with an urgency Marcus hadn't expected. He pulled out his phone. Denise answered immediately. Well, Denise, there's something about Tyra and this place. What are you talking about? Before Marcus could answer, the front doors opened. Tyra walked inside with Jordan. She saw her father standing beneath the restoration photographs, but didn't stop. The general manager approached them. Good morning, Tyra. Marcus stepped forward. Tyra, what exactly is going on? Tyra turned toward him. Before she could answer, the manager opened the conference room door. Several people were already seated inside. Ms. Williams, she said, the other owners are ready for you. Marcus didn't follow Tyra into the conference room immediately. For several seconds, he simply stared at the open door. Other owners, he finally said. Tyra looked at Jordan, then back at her father. I think it's time you understood what happened. Inside, Bellamy House's ownership documents were already on the table. Tyra took a seat. Marcus sat across from her. 18 months ago, Tyra began, Bellamy House was struggling to complete its restoration. Marcus frowned. I know you did some marketing work here. Not just marketing. Tyra explained that her event marketing company had been hired to consult on Bellamy House's relaunch. She had studied the venue's bookings, branding, and long-term potential. Then she made a decision Marcus had never known about. I invested. Marcus stared at her. How much? Enough to become a minority owner. Silence. Jordan remained beside Tyra, while Marcus looked toward the ownership paperwork. You own part of Bellamy House. Yes. But you never told us. You never asked what I was building. You called my work little event jobs. Marcus looked away. Tyra had spent years seeking her parents' approval. Eventually, she had stopped using their opinion as the measure of whether she was succeeding. Her investment had been one of the first major decisions she kept entirely separate from them. And yesterday, Marcus asked, you canceled my refund because you own the place. No. Tyra slid the paperwork toward him. This is your contribution agreement. This is our wedding contract. And this is the cancellation request you submitted. The 3 documents made the situation impossible to distort. Marcus had contributed $18,000 toward specific wedding expenses. Tyra and Jordan were the contracting clients. Marcus had represented himself as having authority he did not possess. When management reviewed the cancellation, Tyra said, they discovered the problem. Because I'm both a contracting client and a minority owner, it was escalated immediately. So where's my money? In the accounting process, every refundable dollar that legally belongs to you will be returned. Marcus leaned back. You could have kept it. I don't want it. That answer hit harder than an argument. Tyra wanted no financial connection that Marcus could later use as leverage. The conference room door opened. Denise entered quickly. Marcus, what is happening? Then she noticed the documents. She looked from Marcus to Tyra. Marcus spoke quietly. She owns part of the venue. Denise gave a short, disbelieving laugh. What? Tyra didn't respond with another explanation. She simply pushed the ownership paperwork across the table. Denise read it. Her face changed. The same daughter she had told to find someone who could afford her had helped finance the restoration of the building they were sitting inside. Denise slowly lowered the papers. Why would you hide this from us? I didn't hide it. I stopped reporting every accomplishment to people who had already decided I wasn't successful. Marcus suddenly leaned forward. This isn't about your business. I was protecting you. From what? From making a mistake. His eyes moved toward Jordan. You're marrying beneath yourself, Tyra. Maybe canceling the wedding was drastic, but somebody had to make you think. Jordan's shoulders stiffened, but he said nothing. Tyra answered instead. If you were concerned, you could have spoken to me. I tried. No, you gave me conditions. Then when I didn't obey them, you pretended you had authority over a contract that wasn't yours. Marcus opened his mouth. Tyra finished calmly. That isn't protection, that's control. There was nothing left for him to threaten her with. The wedding had been restored. His contribution was being removed. His access was gone. And the daughter, he believed, needed his money had proven she could finance her own choices. The family learned the truth soon afterward. Relatives who had watched Marcus drop that cancellation notice beside Tyra's dinner plate discovered that he had never been financing the entire wedding. Tyra and Jordan had paid the venue deposit, catering installments, photographer, and most of the remaining expenses themselves. Marcus's $18,000 had been a contribution, not ownership. For Tyra, however, one decision remained. She made it privately. "Mom, Dad, you won't be attending the wedding." Denise stared at her. "You're excluding your own parents. You tried to stop the marriage from happening." Marcus shook his head. "You'll regret making this personal. It became personal when you canceled my wedding." Tyra didn't raise her voice. "I'm not doing this to punish you, but anyone willing to sabotage my marriage doesn't get a front row seat when I make those vows." 6 weeks later, Bellamy House was filled with guests. Tyra and Jordan simplified several expensive reception details rather than replacing Marcus's upgrades dollar for dollar. They paid every remaining bill themselves. And when Tyra walked toward Jordan, there was no family money attached to the moment. No conditions. No threat hanging over them. Marcus eventually received every portion of his $18,000 that was refundable under the agreement. That was all he received. No invitation. No control. No apology for a boundary Tyra had every right to establish. Tyra remained a minority owner of Bellamy House and became more involved in its business operations after the wedding. Her relationship with her parents wasn't completely erased, but it changed permanently. Contact became limited. Financial involvement became non-existent. And Jordan remained exactly who he had always been, a public school counselor who loved Tyra without requiring her success to make him feel important. Months later, Tyra stood inside Bellamy House watching another couple prepare for their ceremony. For years, she had thought independence meant proving to her parents that she was successful enough to deserve their approval. Now she understood something simpler. She didn't need permission to build a life they wouldn't have chosen. Marcus canceled his daughter's wedding to prove she couldn't afford a life without him. Instead, he discovered the wedding could survive perfectly well without his money, and so could Tyra.